Balakrishna here, and I'm born to uh, Rangappa and Saubhagya, who are my parents, and married to Balakrishna, and now a mother of Falguni, my daughter. And I'm born in Bangalore in 1971. So, born, brought up, and studied in Bangalore. So, to tell you something about my early influences, yes, my parents were the early influences, where both my dad and mom always were so involved in three of our dear kids. That is, I have two siblings, so every inch of whatever happened in the school, or whether we had to go out for a curriculum, other popular activities, both my parents are so involved in every inch of it. And probably the excellence in what they were doing, the small actions, what they did, really did influence. And especially, I would like to remember the kind of involvement what my dad was doing. He used to even sharpen our pencils. Uniform was so much starched and ironed, and the small bit of things, but they were so involved in every bit of the things that really got us the best dressed girl or best disciplined girl in the school. So those things were some of the things which really had a big influence as we grew up. Even my mom, she was so perfect in every small thing she would do, be it a beauty tip she would give it to us, or be it a small bit of she's very interested in mythology, so she keeps talking about Ramayana, Mahabharata, how people tackle their problems, and how Krishna used to intervene in all the kind of problems that Arjuna had to face, and so beautifully put across. And she would guide us, okay, this is not the way. Even now, sometimes, when I go low, I call her up, mom, this is what is happening. Even now, she doesn't hesitate to say and relates to some incident which she feels should be told. I think they were the best influences in my life. And yes, of course, to take up chemistry, one of my teachers, who I would remember, Professor Rekha, who is a professor in Vidyavardhaka College even today. She was such a nice teacher to me that, every small bit of doubts I had in chemistry, I would finish my class and run to her. And she wouldn't hesitate, however small or stupid my doubt is. She would make sure that I'm convinced, and probably that influenced me to take up chemistry. And of course, after my UG, I took up PG in chemistry, and continued to finish off, although in very good marks, but I had to break a year because I got married in between. And then after a lot of struggle, because I had a 4 months kid, and I joined my PhD and finished my PhD successfully. But that was, I can say, the tough part of my life, because I had to manage as a wife, I had to manage as a mother, I had to manage as a PhD student, and also I was working part time. So though those times, many times, many instances, I thought, okay, this is really too much, maybe I should quit. But definitely, I had a lot of support at home, a very good husband, a mother, and a mother-in-law, who always said, no, you have taken up something, just try to finish it. And that is how I went on to finish. But then, although I was so passionate to take up research and finish my postdoctoral, I couldn't go into postdoctoral because of family commitments. My daughter was too small. But then got into a job, then successfully took the headship of a research unit in Vishweshwar Technological University. And after that, I got an offer in Jain University, because it was then they were starting the research centers. So I moved on and took up a big responsibility of building a research center. And it went on the journey. So meanwhile, I worked on I'm a photochemist, so I teach photochemistry and also do a lot of photochemistry as research. I work in solar cells, I do photocatalysis, environmental remediation. So I built up my own group, and meanwhile, I also worked on building up the research center. Right now, we have 30 other faculty with me, with 27 men and one woman, and including me, we are 30. And a lot of challenges on the way, because research, establishing a research center and sustaining a research in that research center is not going to be easy. So it was a bit of a journey, but then I have enjoyed every bit of the journey because I had a wonderful team here, and I have learned with them, I have grown with them, because these people all came from very very good labs from outside, and they brought the knowledge, and I was so open to learn and grow with them. In between, I also had opportunities to visit some of the big labs in the world, like at NUS radiation lab in US and catalysis lab in France. So that also gave me a lot of exposure how we can really take our research way beyond what is happening. And today, I think I can say I've been really doing good in research, and my daughter has grown well now, so she's taking care of herself, so I have more time to devote to my research. Of course, challenges are there. Many challenges we have gone through. I don't know whether I should be talking about those the challenges which if I look back now, I feel maybe they were small, but then it was a tough time to go through those things. So this is my small bit of story, which I thought I could share it with you all. Yeah, I still remember my mom, always telling, even now, she tells it to her grandchildren. She says, do the right thing. Always do the right thing. You maintain your integrity, automatically things fall in place. Because doing right things will always support you, even when there are nobody to support you. So I think that is the biggest value. Even today, I make sure that I follow it, and also tell my juniors or my colleagues who would look up to me, just do the right thing or maintain your integrity in every bit of action, and things automatically fall in place. But I have my dad, who also he's a big influencer, and he still works. He's around 77 now, and he makes sure that uh, he's an engineer, and as a consultant he works, and he says, uh, why would I waste my knowledge? Why can't I share it with somebody who are in need of it? And he says, be so good at your talent, or be learn so much that you cannot go unnoticed, you cannot be dismissed. So definitely that is something that I say, learn things, excel yourself, or be good at what you're doing, so automatically there is somebody who are going to notice you, or that it is something that they cannot ignore you. And those are some of the things which I feel are to be or I feel very important for me to have reached this stage. Yeah, it so happened that, probably maybe a few years back, when I had a conflict with one of my colleague here, and went through a very tough time for maybe a year or so. And as usual, I used to call her and talk to her. Yeah, this is what is happening. Maybe because it's sometimes the male ego, or I didn't understand what was actually the problem that was causing, that was so much building up as a bridge between the people here. So she had a very relative incident, and she was telling me that whatever is the reason, it took almost 12 years for these people to convince. Even in the last, they were not able to convince them completely, but to convince the Kauravas. I'm talking about the Pandava Kaurava war, it is just because of one small bit of the thing. This man goes to, this is the Pandavas goes to Kauravas and say, okay, just give us one village, that's enough for us, we'll stop the war. And they say, no, we cannot be a village. Then he says, just give us at least a house, we are okay with that. Then he says, no, it cannot be given. Then give us a small place at least, so we can just go ahead and you can be as you are. And they say, no, you cannot get anything. You have to lose and just go back to whatever our conditions are. So, and that instance, she says, a man cannot, you need to be, if you think that you're making mistakes, there should be a point when you need to realize that, because greed never ends, it goes on and on and on and on. So you want something today, you got 10 papers today, tomorrow you may get 15 papers, there's no end to anything. So there should be something that you need to have for yourself, saying that no, at the end of the day, this is what I value more. You cannot go on sacrificing your values or morals, and because there is no end to the greed. There is absolutely, like today you may have one house, another one house, another one house. And so that particular instance she told, is just just assume that the things will come to place. You just be patient, and automatically that person, probably he realized what he was, or maybe even I realized, okay, let's accept where we are, and just not think about anything else, but the value is what is going to matter more. And I think those that kind of a story, it just said, just calm down. They took 12 years to actually convince, and they could not. So yours is just a matter of 12 months or 12 days, what you're talking about. So just have patience and calm down, and things will automatically come to terms. War, and they just ask them to go back to, I mean, they don't give them anything. So that is what, no, the war happened because they don't give them anything. The war started because they don't give them anything. Otherwise, ultimately it's the Pandavas who won. But what is the use when Pandavas won? Nobody was, alive. So everybody had, except one or two, the others were all dead. So there was no meaning. So nobody calls it as a win. And probably, I don't know, it's been happening. That's the second instance that happened in my life. Maybe, I don't know, men find it very difficult when women really, uh, uh, I don't say dominant, because when you're sitting at a chair and you are heading a committee, or you're heading a group of people, they would want to find reasons to say, no, you're not good, or you need to, I mean, I don't know. Because I always relate the first instance and the second instance, and both with the same stories. It's like, I don't know. Maybe you should not use this for your this one, but I'm just sharing it with you. Like, it's been the same kind of story. It's the ego which they don't want to accept what you say, and then they start. See, it's very obvious that a person is very ambitious, and he's, I don't say he's lazy, but when he doesn't want to do work, he always finds an opportunity to put the other person down. And especially if it's a woman, it's easy because we are emotional. So we tend to react. And they usually use these cards against us, like you uh, do an age shaming, make comments on the thing. So automatically we overreact. So, and that gives another way for them to take advantage of the situation. It's much more, when you're almost of equal ages. A person is just 1 year younger to me, and he has to listen to you, and he sees that there is a lot of, what do you say, need, like, I mean, there's no option for him, then he starts revolting. It's that way. Yeah. Yeah, please go on. Yeah, I'm the eldest, so I have a sister and a brother. And my brother is presently abroad. He was abroad, now he's planning to come back to India. And my sister is in a government sector, so she's in the education department. Yeah, I would say that they are in their own problems and challenges. And she's also a lady who's really doing good at her job, and she also has a daughter and son, and she's been able to tackle all this and go ahead. And I think maybe my parents are as, and again, an inspiration, And my brother, yeah, he is also an engineer, an MTech in mechanical, and he's doing really good. At he designs machines. In fact, sometimes we just discuss over research problems together. So he's very good at calibrations. And my dad also was in the same field, so maybe he also is very good at calibrations of medical equipment. My dad even does that today. He does consultancy in that. And probably yeah, even in Ganesh Chaturthi, we all met, and we were just discussing over a table, my dad, myself, and my brother, about how why not we can start our own firm. And probably because the knowledge what we have, definitely we can do things. But then yeah, that happens over a table, that once we move out, yeah, all of us are so busy in our own things, like it's only next time when we meet, probably yeah, they are in their own thing. But definitely, I would say my parents are the influence for all three. My dad says even now, if I take leave for some reason and I'm at home, and he happens to know that I'm at home, he says, "Why are you applying leave?" I mean, that concern, what he says, I mean, it's something like, okay, no, your duty is something that you need to first attend to. It's the other things. So it's like that. So siblings are doing well, and probably, as I put it, it's again uh, duty bound. Both of them are so much into their work, and myself also into the work, that we really hardly get time to think about other things, or we take the other things or ignore whatever small things that come across within ourselves. I feel really good actually, because I always feel, family members are kind of, they can never guide you wrong. They would always want you to prosper. They would always want you to do something good. But it's the other way around, because you don't know when you talk to a colleague whether however close he is, or what, whether with of that interest he's talking to you. But it's not that way with your family is always talking to you with an interest that they want you to prosper, they want you to go ahead, they want you to take the right thing. So that thing is something that is really good. So that makes you feel good. I remember there was one project when my brother was also involved. We did this water soluble packages for DDT. So this DDT was earlier used to clean the drainage. And if you have a plastic which can dissolve in water, that would be like a very a big breakthrough if you're able to get a plastic which can go into water, shampoo sachets or something. So that is where, when his firm, he works in Bosch, so his firm was actually into it. And that is how he came up to me and he said, "No, why don't you take this polymer and see what it is, and see if you can develop it further." And then we did that, and Bosch was interested, and that is how we could file a patent. And that was one particular project that both of us put our ideas into. That was nice. No, I was quite influenced by my dad, because he was an engineer. So I wanted to get into something which is relative to that. So I did my PCMB, but then yeah, I got an engineering seat, but then it was I don't know, somehow till 10th I was an excellent child, but 11th and 12th grades were not that good, that I couldn't get a good college. And to get a college in Bangalore, and good college without donations, my dad had to give some amount of money, which I said no, I would not get into engineering, rather I would do science. But then I was also interested in administration. I don't know, from the beginning I was a school captain, a party captain, and I was into a lot of activities, always trying to lead a group. And that's how probably my dad thought that I should take up IAS. and he said, you are going to do good in administration, or you can get into defense. So I that's how I got into 10th and 11th and 12th. But then defense, yes, I went till the physical interview. Then my height was not sufficient, so I could not go through that. I would have loved to if I would have got into defense, but again, research was my passion, so I continued with science. And then again I became a head of a research institute. Today we have around 200 people in our center. I really feel good that I started it from scratch and it's good, doing good. So that really gives you a good feeling. Yeah, it's something like I would also at this point say that my chancellor was very supportive at this point. So when I met him for the first time, he just told me, "See, we have this plan of starting a research unit here, and do you think you can take up the challenge of establishing a research center here?" And without hesitation, I said, yes, I have that energy, and I'm looking for a passionate job where I can do good things. So I will definitely want to take up this. And that is how he was very supportive. I wasn't this kind of a person. I can just feel what I was 20 years back, a very aggressive person. Everything should happen as planned, and very, very what do you say, perfectionist, without moving inch here and there. But now I think I also say that he's been a very important part of my life to mold me into this, to accept and go slow and see how the things uh, come and then react, rather than immediate reaction. So yeah, I do head a research center, and uh, it's not an exaggeration if I say that this research center, which has come just 10 years from now, is really doing good. We've been able to be visible to some of the top scientists in the world, and with a good appreciation from them. In fact, last week we had a symposium from, and Professor Sood, of the PSA, attended that, and Ashutosh Sharma, and Professor Ganesh, the national. I mean, they had their, unless they find that something good is happening, I'm sure that that appreciation would not have come from them, and I'm happy about it. Yeah. See, being a private university, I would say that standing on par with public universities is a big challenge. And to get the first funding to the department for the research center was really a milestone for us. And from then, it is like everyone is so I mean, what do you say, so much that culture is so well developed now that each one has been able to get at least two or three projects fundings from them, and then they've been able to go forward. So that first research fund what we got from DST was very important for us. So that was an important milestone. And in my career, of course, the first award and industrial collaboration, which I thought was a big milestone. So this was called as the UAV Global Water Award, where I received it from Prime Minister of Dubai, the ruler of Dubai, and that was a big lump sum of money which we received for the project. And this was it was like we almost worked for 2 years for this project, and uh, it the fruit. And when we were selected, we were the third, we were the second runner up, and it really gave us I mean, a lot of accolades after that. We had many industries coming forward, and our technology was taken up, and a series of awards followed after that. So that is another milestone, I would say. And one more, I would not, because yeah, my I became a Fulbright fellow in 2017. I visited a radiation lab in US. Uh, and worked under Prashant Kamath, who's a very well-known scientist in the world. And it was my dream, actually. Even before I joined research, I was thinking I should get an opportunity to work with him, and it happened. And I'm very happy for that. Yeah, and after that, you could see my research also shaped. Uh, into. I mean, I had a pathway to go after I came back from them, and it was a very good thing that happened. So these three things I consider my the important milestones. Yeah, I think every day is a challenge for a woman, who's working and who's got a family at home. I have an old mother-in-law at home now. I'm just telling you the faces. The presently the kind of challenge I'm facing is, you go back really stressed sometimes, and she's so old now, she's not able to do anything on her own, but she supported me so much that I cannot just ignore the kind of things that she's going through. But then your energy levels go down, you're no more what you were 20 years back, and your husband also becomes busy, because this is the period, when you're between 45 and 55 is the career period for everybody. And we have lot to do at work, and he has lot to do at work, and so that is challenging, to take care of her and attend to your parents also, because my parents are also alone. And sometimes it makes you feel very bad that you cannot, but I make it a point that every day I call my mom up, or sometimes my dad's busy and my mom sometimes feel lonely, and I feel that I should take care of her. So once in a way, I call her and talk to her, and if she's sick, I go back and attend to her. So these things, even though you can't do it. Sometimes you feel bad that. So I feel that these are the challenges, small things. Big challenges, yes, of course. I told you, like uh, like one is this surviving, sustaining the research is a big challenge in profession, because unless you had the day your funding starts, your research ends there. And we cannot depend on the private management here, because I belong to a private university with the management to spend too much. So it's that's what it is. These are the challenges. Otherwise, small things keep coming, and I think we are so now um, well tamed to take up those things and tune ourselves. So I hadn't given my exams even. So somehow it happened that it was an arranged marriage. So just got married even before my exams, and I started working. So immediately after my marriage, I think it was 3 months after my marriage, I started working, and it was teaching. But then that's what I somewhere in the behind, I wanted to take up research, so I was constantly searching for a job where I could work also and I could do my PhD. And I did get an opportunity, and yeah, I started doing that. And after I also had another problem. The first kid, maybe because I was too engrossed or too much, because my BP went up very high and I lost my child, my first child. I delivered, although it was a full term baby. So that really put me off, because I worked almost till the ninth month, and I just took 15 days leave. I did not heed to the doctors that I need to stay back, because my BP shot up so high. I lost my kidney stopped working, and it took some time for me to get back. And then my cycle child, I had no problems. But then I had, after that, I told you constantly it was going on mind. I should join PhD. I got back to my normal. I delivered her normal, and then joined PhD. So that was it. See, it was in 1971 when Brasher and Alan Bard and scientists like Fujishima showed that you can use semiconductor particles to convert light energy into different forms. So I work on converting light energy into chemical energy and also into solars, that is electrical energy. So I work on solar cells, and I work on materials which can actually decontaminate water or purify water. So I presently work on perovskite solar cells. So my main aim is to devise semiconductor particles which are active to sunlight. So these materials, then we put it as absorbers in solar cells. So presently, mixed halide perovskites is the absorbers what we prepare in the lab. And then one of my paper published in 2018, because of which I was recognized as one of the top women in energy research across the world. So we started off with the chalcogenide semiconductors, and then we moved into perovskite semiconductors. Now we are into mixed halide quantum dots, and the other part is water purification. So we term it as a photocatalysis. So the same kind of semiconductor particles, when you put it into water, it can absorb sunlight and degrade the contaminant, be it oxidation or reduction. So we've been able to do it with chromium. We've been able to do it with eliminate chromium toxicity. We've been able to do it with a lot of pesticides. We've been able to do it with a lot of pharmaceutical compounds, personal care products. So these materials in water can be degraded into non-toxic form when you use the semiconductor materials what we synthesize in our lab. So these are two main areas. So now we have slowly moved into putting these materials, semiconductor particles, into membranes. So in addition to separation of contaminants, we degrade them. So we do simultaneous separation and degradation of contaminants. So these are the two major areas. So when we design the semiconductor particles and when we find that they're not going to be useful both for these two applications, we use them for sensors. Sensors is mostly optical sensors. So the materials what we prepare are highly fluorescent materials. So the moment you tag them to analytes like pesticides or heavy metal ions which are going to contaminate water, they fluoresce and give us an indication that there is a contaminant. So we also do it with pathogens, so food and waterborne pathogens. So one of the project which I worked, I would like to share with you is a project from IGCAR Kalpakam. So this was a BRNS project where Kalpakam wanted to test whether you have these heavy metals like uranyl ion or cadmium ion or in the cell lines or the plasma of blood in and around a nuclear reactor. And we designed this optical sensor to detect these metal ions in the blood and cell lines. Yeah, definitely having gone through these things, it may be not very obvious for us because we do not recognize sometimes that we are going through this. So it's only later that when you look back, oh yeah, maybe it had happened to me, the same things. So one thing you'll be rest assured that in my lab, always the ladies are on a upper hand compared to men. So from the beginning, I don't know, I've always had a liking to take up girls as the PhD students. Unlike many of my colleagues, they outrightly have this thing to say that no, girls, we will always prefer a male over a female because handling a chemical or moving around, traveling around to get their characterized samples characterized is difficult if you have a female. But then for me, my girls have done extraordinarily well and throughout. And with respect to colleagues, as head of the center, I've always had it in my mind somewhere behind that I need to be more compassionate. I need to be more considerate when it comes to a lady because I know the kind of any lady would have to struggle when she has to balance both home and profession. I do not miss my gym. I do not miss my pranayama. So I get up very early in the morning. So I'm a very early riser. 4:30 is my time, and I make sure that these two are complete, and then I start my daily course. I in gym also I balance myself to do a little bit of weightlifting and aerobics because I love music. So I love dancing to music. So these things actually kicks my day off. So the moment I'm out of these two things, I feel so energetic and yeah, I'm ready to take up any challenge that day. And I do carry a lot of work home. I do work on Sundays also. I do work on Saturdays also. But then priorities are always maintained. I always make sure if my daughter is coming down, she's presently doing her MS abroad. So if she's coming down, I take off from work, spend time with her, and I also make sure that my husband has vacation period in a year. So during that vacation, I make sure, because the moment you keep them happy, you're happy. So that is my mantra. So you keep your family members happy at home, then you can focus on your work in the at profession. So that's my way of looking at it. And I tell my students also, you need to be so fit that you can just brush off any challenges and take it up. See, it's not that you need the best brain to do research, or it's, I usually don't believe that. It's the hard work which actually matters. It's a pursuance what actually matters. So and to do that, you need your fitness. You need to be physically strong, you need to be mentally strong, and only then you can pursue that. And the moment your hard work is there, you're going to get the results. So that's the way it is. So to do hard work, you need to be fit. So that's how you can sustain the things coming away with. Yeah. See, I've seen this in India, where I don't know it is the right forum for me to talk about it, but the state universities really suffer in infrastructure and the research environment. Me being a part of it and have done PhD from Bangalore University, we really struggle to do research. Although I have utilized most of my time spending in ISC for characterization and doing research, but then I have seen the pathetic situation of how the research scenario is in Indian universities, state universities especially. And I've always thought, what if I'm given a chance to improve this? I would work my way all through, and make it the best in the world. Because you have people are there with so much of passion. It is just a little bit of a rearrangement, a little bit of funding which requires, and thinking which actually can make these things work. It's very very sad to say that the research scenario in state universities are really suffering. So probably if I get a chance, that's what I'm looking forward for. If I get a chance as one of the has person who can make some changes or norms in the universities, probably a vice chancellor or so. um, I would definitely want to do that and show that yes, we can do something. And especially in Bangalore, I have seen the university in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Comparatively, our university needs something like this, like a leadership which can really convert it into one of the big universities. And I hope I can do that sometime. And that was my thing also when I came to this Jain University. I said, even today, any student across the world just put an email, I need this facility. I said, please come and do it. Because I've known the struggle a PhD student has gone through in a Bangalore University or a state university to get her research results. So, given a chance, definitely I would want to do that. No, see, let me tell you, I'm a very passionate and energetic person. If I'm given the responsibility, I would definitely want to do that and show, yes, we can do it. I think it's because of failures that I've been successful. That is for sure. It is only because I've gone through those hardships where, every time a paper is rejected, every time a funding agency rejects your proposal, or every time the management turns down your offer and says it can't be done, that is where, you start thinking other ways. You start working more. And I think failures are very important, and those are the ones which have made me, and I feel it's equally the same for others also, to make them successful. And you become more and more stronger the moment you are um, going through those failures. You start thinking and applying all kinds of strategies to overcome, and probably that's that's actually going to make you stronger and actually be ready for the next challenge, and you will do well in that. So that is success for me is happiness. Yeah, I do things with because it gives me happiness. And I tell my students also, if you think that this is not going, you are not going to be happy, if you think that this is making you feel sad, please don't do that. So success for me is happiness. You need to uh, for me, I just look for happiness. Yes, that's all is success. The moment you have some success, it's actually difficult to handle that, because you expect the people start expecting much more from you, and that's a kind of pressure on you actually. It puts a pressure. You got this, then you got a very high impact paper published, you got this amount of funding. So next time it puts a pressure, okay, I need to do something more, otherwise people are, I mean, that's a pressure according to me. So it's just that you need to look for happiness. It's rather than looking for something like that. It's just going to take you the other way around. Otherwise, yeah, you need to be good at your work. You need to really learn the things. There's no shortcut. You need to learn the things, get onto the table, and do good science. It's just not that you need to publish a paper and do something and just do that. When you dig out the actual intricacies of that particular work, what you're doing, you will enjoy it. And not only that, the next project becomes easier. Otherwise, if you depth is more important in science. When you actually go into the depth of that particular problem, you can actually solve it much easier, and the next problem is going to be much easier. Please do not do science at surface level. It is, or do not do research at surface level. It is not just for publication. It is not just for, because it's not going to take you anywhere. It just stops at a paper. But the moment you go into depth, it's easy for you to take up the next project and the next project, and the publications will automatically come. Oh yeah, as I have initially told you that maintaining your integrity is very important. You need to completely have integrity at your, especially in research. And I think everything else will just fall in place then. It's just you just have to relax. After that, automatically things will go. But the moment there is something wrong there, you can't be in peace. It puts down your confidence, it puts down your relations with your co-workers. It's just going to just put you down. May not be immediately, but after some time. So maintaining integrity is very important. Oh, I've always thought about this. I've always thought, because I've missed so many opportunities in life. And I've always thought, okay, I feel that I should not have got married. Let me be open to you. I've got married because I don't know, like, so if my daughter says she's not going to get married, I always say, oh, live your life. Because you will always find, the moment, you are committed, the moment you are bound to something, then you lose that freedom to actually, I don't say something was wrong with me, somebody did not support me, but then uh, you are no more what you were when you were free. That is something that I would not have done if I was if you give me a chance to go back, or maybe I would have done, but at my own pace. I love taking challenges. So the moment, I have something in hand, that drives me to do things. If there's an upcoming conference which is supposed to go or to do, or if there's upcoming project that I need to submit, an upcoming problem which I'm facing in the lab, so that really drives me. I'm up and ready to take that. So I think that actually keeps me going. So self-care, Not really much, probably. I said being fit. I'm a kind of I would say, of go crazy with fitness sometimes. So I love spending time in gym. Even if I have done it, I don't mind. If I'm not okay with my mood, I just put on my tracks and just go to the gym and listen to music. That's it. Otherwise, I don't really have much. I don't go to parlors. I don't know. Like, I would love to probably get a massage if once in a way I can do that. That's nice. But otherwise, not really much. Oh, I No, I wanted to become a pilot. I told you I went up to the interview and I was rejected. So, given a chance, I would like to. I did try actually. There's one aerodrome here in Jakur in Bangalore, but somehow it didn't happen. So, I would like to. Uh, become a pilot for a day or so. I actually would put sometimes back, in my presentation. The last slide would be uh, just ignore the small things because you have bigger things to take up. So I think it's important for us to accept the life as it comes, and small things are to be ignored, because don't think anything which makes you feel small, or don't get into anything which makes you feel small. That is what I feel, because you can always grow bigger and bigger, and yeah, that's my way of looking at it. Let's not get into anything which makes us feel small. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. I would say lively. I would say lively. So it's something like, wherever I am, I make sure that people around me or that group is doing something nice too, and we I tend to create that happy vibes around. So oh yeah, I said I didn't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, there were times, when I had completely lost my health, and uh, as I told you, I lost my baby, the first baby, and that was a very, very difficult time, first 2 months, because my parents were equally suffering with me, and my husband also was. So you kind of, also have a guilt in you that you did not take care of your baby, because of which the others are also going through. So, but then, yes, time shall pass. So that is something that I have learned. Just allow it, go it the way, because when times are not okay, it's not only with that incident. Many times I've seen, when times are tough, you tend to make more mistakes, because you become panicky or more anxious, and give it time. Just relax and give it time, but you have to go through that process. But that's the best way you can deal that problem with, and you'll get over to the normal. So yeah, because these are some of the things, like, you can't share those feelings with others also. It was a really tough. Even now, when I feel so bad. Okay, maybe one or two things from my side I would have been conscious. uh, I think I would have saved him. He was a boy. I would have saved him, because he was completely all right. It's a full 9 months baby, and yeah, that guilt is always there. Maybe because I did not take care. I was too much at work. So yeah, yeah, that's it.